Good morning, everybody. This morning we will finish, all being well, the evidence of Mr. Lambert. The hearing is going to be transmitted over the live link, but only after a 15-minute delay has elapsed. Those with mobile devices may use them to report upon what they have heard, but only after 15 minutes have elapsed since the event that they're reporting. They may not be used for recording or photography. If I've understood the position correctly, we will rise at 11 o'clock for half an hour to enable the Rule 10 process to be undertaken. Hope I've got that right.
You have, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Lambert, a couple of issues arising from the evidence over the last few days. First of all, could we have 246635 up, please? This is one of DC Jenner's reports. It's about the Defendant Information Service run by Dr. Graham Smith. 17th of September 1996.
Yes, thank you.
This appears on its face to be a report purely about what is described as anti-police campaigning, isn't it?
Yes.
Did you know much about Dr. Smith?
I don't think so. Well, at least I don't recall.
Who ran the Hackney Community Defence Association. That was essentially pure anti-police reporting, wasn't it?
I don't have a clear recollection, but I'm more than prepared to accept that.
Could we take that down now, please? Could we have up 721941, please? This is the record of an interview with HN120 by Operation Hearn, which took place on the 27th of August 13, or rather it's a Section 9 witness statement as a result of Operation Hearn's.
HN120.
If you need to check, he is the officer, to remind you, who infiltrated Movement for Justice.
Is it management or undercover?
He is the undercover officer who infiltrated Movement for Justice.
Oh, yeah, yes. Who we talked about
yes.
Yesterday, yeah. Right.
If we go to page 6 of this Section 9 witness statement, and I will let you read the top half.
Yes.
It's the account of the meeting at which you, HN120 and Detective Inspector Walton were present.
Yes, thank you.
The information in third and fourth lines down about Walton asking HN120 about the impact of MFJ around the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, the black community and the black churches. Are you able to help us with whether that is accurate?
I think it must be, reasonably accurate. I don't know why black churches would be mentioned, but I certainly don't recall that. That's the only particular issue. But
if we could take that down now, please. Going to move to Detective Sergeant James Thompson now, who we refer to as HN16. Did Thompson say to you at any point anything about having the identity of a deceased child ready in case he needed it?
Well, not that I recall. This is this an additional identity?
Yes. To remind you, Detective Sergeant Thompson joins in 1997, and he uses a fictional identity, James Straven.
Yeah.
But it is subsequently discovered that he had an unauthorised second identity, Kevin Crossland.
Yeah.
And what I am exploring is whether he'd said anything to you at all to suggest that he'd, at the stage you are managing him, had the idea of keeping a second identity up his sleeve.
I've no recollection of it. It would be very unusual.
Although it is right to say, isn't it, that in the animal rights community it wasn't unheard of for the activists themselves to use false identities, was it?
No, that's correct.
Did you discuss that with them at all?
Not that I can recall.
I'd just like to ask you some questions about supervision arrangements. He had quite glamorous cover employment in the film industry, didn't he?
Yes.
What arrangements were in place to ensure that Detective Sergeant Thompson spent his time applying himself to his deployment as opposed to indulging in the glamorous life of the film industry?
Obviously in the in the usual ways, our management engagement with him, both as part of a group and in smaller affinity groups, and then in one-to-one. I don't think there was ever a time when management actively went out to monitor his employment. I'm sure, well, I'll just speak for myself. I think at the time I was confident that there wasn't really any glamour attached to the job, as far as he was concerned. The work, the cover work that he was doing, it wasn't really, it wasn't, anything glamorous. But in any event, it was a good cover, and I was satisfied that he was using it appropriately.
Did you monitor output in terms of the volume or quality of reporting?
I'm sure we did. I'm sure.
Was it done in a structured way or just by general familiarity with the officer's work?
Well, for me, general familiarity, but the reporting sergeant would have had an absolutely accurate assessment of it.
What happened to Detective Sergeant Thompson's earnings from his cover employment?
I've no recollection today what the arrangements were. It wouldn't have been down to me. Of course, I would have been aware but it wouldn't have been my role to deal with the finances.
Were they allowed to keep their cover earnings?
I think it would, be a case-by-case judgment. I can't recall what the arrangements were in his case.
And was anybody keeping an eye on what D.S. Thompson was earning and what he was doing with it?
It's very difficult to say now. I'm sure it would have been monitored, but whatever the arrangements were, he would have been trusted to stick to them.
We've heard evidence that Detective Sergeant Thompson undertook a significant amount of study with the Open University whilst he was deployed. Whilst you were serving in the SDS, were you aware that he was doing that?
No, I have no recollection of it. I might have, I don't know.
Is that something that was permitted, not permitted, or simply not considered?
Well, we would have wanted to be aware. And was it being undertaken by him privately, or which I'm assuming is the case, rather than doing it in his cover role?
I see. Can you recall whether or not you were aware?
No.
Can I move now to 2002? Obviously, by this stage, you've left the SDS, but it is at this point that Detective Sergeant Thompson finds himself in a considerable amount of trouble as a result of his conduct in his undercover role. Can we have up, please, 719665? And you'll see this is this is a file note written by HN120 on the 28th of March 2002, recording a telephone call from you. So it appears that what has happened is that Thompson has called you because he wants to speak to you because he's in trouble. Can you recall speaking to or meeting Detective Sergeant Thompson at this stage?
Yes, I remember meeting him. I don't. Is it in my? Have I?
Let's take this a step at a time. First of all, what is your recollection now of that meeting?
Yeah. Well, I have a clear visual memory of the location, which was a cafe in Putney, quite near to a police building where I was doing some work. So I broke off from my work to meet him. He was pretty distressed in a way that I hadn't seen before. So we had a cup of coffee or two, maybe a 1 hour meeting, possibly 2 hours. And I was in listening mode. I remember him well, he outlined to me why he was upset. He was saying that he'd been removed from the squad, and I gradually got a bit of a picture, not the clearest picture, but a picture of a very sort of angry, troubled officer who was, well, why was he speaking to me? I mean, yeah, I was a good listener, and of course, I was his first detective inspector. I recruited him, so he was, opening his heart to me.
Did he explain to you in that course of the conversation what it was that he had done that had got him removed from the unit?
I didn't really get a clear idea. I think I got references to an operation, which of course I've now read about in some detail, but I think, involving a firearm trip to France. I think, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that I gleaned, that he mentioned that.
And what did he tell you about that?
I can't recall that he was being unfairly treated. Well, I suppose first and foremost, he was sort of saying, well, I'm in the middle of doing important work. I think that might have been it, and why I'm being taken off the squad unfairly. And
did he tell you anything to the effect that he had used the identity of a deceased child?
No, he didn't.
Or prepared to use the identity of a deceased child?
I can't remember, but I'd be surprised.
Did he tell you that he had more than one passport in his cover identity?
I'm pretty sure that he didn't.
Did he tell you that he had unauthorised driving licences and that had been discovered?
No.
Did he tell you he had multiple credit cards and questions were being asked about his finances?
No.
Did he tell you there were suspicions about his cover earnings and what he'd been doing with them?
No.
Did he tell you that he was concerned that managers thought he'd been having a sexual relationship in his undercover identity?
No, he didn't, and I just underline that because I think I have read him saying that he thinks that he did mention that to me at this meeting. I'm pretty sure that he didn't.
Well, his evidence was that he may have told you that he had undercover sexual relationships with two women we're calling Sarah and Ellie. Are you sure he didn't tell you about that?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Presumably, if he had told you, it wouldn't have been a great surprise given how prevalent sexual relationships were undercover.
It wouldn't have been a surprise.
Having been through the list of issues that Detective Sergeant Thompson was in trouble for, I'm not very clear, Mr. Lambert, what it was he was saying to you had led to his removal from the unit. Presumably he must have explained to you why he was being removed from the unit.
Well, I think, okay. I think the nub of that was managers who had it in for him, managers who, wanted rid of him, and it was unjustified and quite, I think that was what he was telling me.
Presumably, if he didn't tell you, you would have explored with him why it was he thought managers had it in for him.
I would have listened, and I, at the time, I would have had a very comprehensive understanding of everything that he told me. And if I'd sat down afterwards and, written it all up, it would have covered all these issues.
Can we go now to 48363, please? This is another file note written by HN120. This one's the 3rd of April 2002, so about a week later.
While it's coming up, can I just add that obviously for me, first and foremost, that this was a welfare meeting, and, some of similar in some ways to other meetings that we've looked at in the last few days.
And you were the sort of person people would go to when they were in trouble and had a difficult issue to deal with.
Well, not always, but often.
Because you would give them a sympathetic ear.
Yes.
You were very experienced with the SDS. And you might be one to explain that these things happen. Explain to other managers that these things happen.
I hardly, given what the reality was, but I just make that point because, as you would expect, it was welfare, but it was operational security, wasn't it, as well? For me.
And what was your assessment of the operational security risks posed by Detective Sergeant Thompson?
I think, that there was a risk, an angry field officer, angry with managers, not, just familiar to some extent.
Was there anything that he told you he'd done?
Pardon?
Was anything that he had told you he had done ringing operational security bells?
I can't quite address it without the details, sorry.
Do you recall whether you met DS Thompson later on in the summer of 2002?
I've no recollection of it. I may well have done.
There seems to be a difficulty with...
0748.
Thank you. 0748363, please. Thank you. As I say, 3rd of April 2002, a week after the last file note we looked at, again, HN53. This is recording a telephone call that you had made. I'll give you a moment to look at the text, if we could have that expanded, please.
Sure.
So essentially you are reporting back to SDS management.
Yes. Yes.
The welfare aspects, essentially, of your meeting.
Yes.
If he'd confessed wrongdoing to you during the course of that meeting, would you have kept that confidential?
No, I would have reported it to HN23, is it?
53.
53, sorry. Yeah.
Presumably, unless he already knew about it.
Yes.
Can you recall now whether you had further contact with Detective Sergeant Thompson after this?
I can't confirm it, but it's quite possible.
Could we take that document down now? I'm going to move to John Dines, Detective Sergeant Dines. Can we start in 1995, please, with 720835? This is the first of a series of briefing notes that you produce in the autumn of 1995 on the subject of a security threat to Detective Sergeant Dines, who by that stage had retired from the Metropolitan Police Service and had just emigrated. If we look at the first paragraph, this is reporting the fact that on the 20th of September 95, a week earlier, there'd been a visit from, as we know, Helen Steele to Sergeant Dines's parents.
Yes.
And it confirmed that they had established the real identity of John Dines.
Yes.
If we look at paragraph 1.2, there is then a summary of what you were asserting that John Dines, under the cover name John Barker, had achieved for the SDS during his deployment.
Yes.
And if we go to paragraph 4.11, it says, DSHN21 has been tasked to monitor the resumption of the McDonald's libel case at the Royal Courts of Justice on Monday, the 2nd of October. Can we take it that Helen Steele turning up on John Dines's parent doorstep was a serious operational security issue for the SDS?
Yes.
Not just for Sergeant Dines's security, but the operational security of the whole unit.
Yes. As we read, though, Helen Steele plus one male.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a moment, and we'll come back further to the libel case in a moment. But at this stage, can you assist us with why it is that the SDS wants to task a detective sergeant to monitor a civil case going through the courts?
There would have to have been a purpose to it in respect of this effort to, or this response to the security concern. I mean, I can speculate on...
Well, there is some more detail in later notes, which we'll come to.
Right.
But does it come to this? You were worried that something might be said in the MacLibel case about infiltration of London Greenpeace?
No, I hadn't thought of that. I still don't think at this point. That's possible, but I'm thinking more sort of practically in terms of trying to identify the unknown male.
Yeah, we'll come back to that particular strand in a moment. But in the meantime, can we have up 720836? This is your second briefing note. It's an update 2 days later, dated the 29th of September 1995. Again, if we could have the first paragraph up, please. And if we scroll down a little bit, reporting again that link that has been made, and it goes on, I think, to describe that confrontation between Helen Steele and one other with John Dines' parents, armed with a photograph of John Barker. At that stage, it's asserting it's not known how the link had been made.
Yes.
Is that right, that you had no idea how she'd made that link?
Obviously at that time, yes.
But you did know that she had been calling John Dines' mother-in-law in New Zealand, didn't you?
Before then?
Before this.
Oh, well, no, that wasn't not my recollection. I mean, I tend to think of this as the first, but obviously
we may come to things which will jog your memory, but let's take it a step at a time. Could we have a look at the second section and the bottom paragraph on this page? If they establish that John Barker was in fact an undercover police officer throughout the period they knew him, they will seek to use the information to the advantage of the ALF, both in terms of an analysis of undercover police methodology and with a view to undermining successful police prosecutions of ALF activists. Which prosecutions did you have in mind?
Well, I can only think that in my mind were the Clark and Shepherd prosecutions.
And how, in your mind, were they going to undermine those prosecutions?
By seeking to present my role as that of an agent provocateur.
So we can conclude, can we, that you knew that the presence of an undercover police officer amongst those committing crimes claimed by the ALF rendered subsequent convictions vulnerable to challenge?
Yes.
And you are doing your level best to prevent Helen Steele and other members of London Greenpeace getting any further with their attempts to discover the truth?
That wouldn't have been my understanding at all.
Well, you are doing your level best, aren't you, to protect John Dines?
Yes, but I'm not at all seeking to prevent them establishing the truth.
By doing your level best to stop Steele finding Dines, it has the practical effect of preventing them challenging the convictions of Clark and Shepherd, doesn't it?
Yes.
That amounts to pursuing a course of action which conceals miscarriages of justice, doesn't it?
In what way?
Well, you know that your presence gives rise, at least to an argument, that the convictions were unsafe. And rather than declaring that to a court, you are doing your level best to maintain the operational security of the SDS and prevent that coming out.
Which, I would have considered to be wholly legitimate.
In order to comply with the golden rule.
Well, that's part of it. I shouldn't overlook the prospect of other police prosecutions, but that's obviously the one that immediately comes to mind.
Subordinating the course of justice to the operational security of the SDS.
That wasn't how I saw it at the time.
That's the effect it had, though, isn't it?
Well, surely it all hinges on the, the allegations.
That's the effect it had, isn't it, Mr. Lambert?
Just forgive me, just tell me how.
Subordinating the course of justice to the operational security of the SDS.
Well, I can only recall how I understood it at the time.
That's the effect it had, isn't it, Mr. Lambert?
I'm not sure that it is.
Why not? The court isn't told, is it?
Pardon?
The court isn't told that there was an undercover police officer close to Clark and Shepherd.
No.
You are here concerned about those prosecutions being undermined, and you are taking actions which prevent that agent provocateur argument from being run, aren't you?
Yes.
And I can take it from your answers that you simply didn't look at it that way at all at the time.
It all hinges on whether I was warranted or not.
Could we look at the top of page 2, please? In such an event, that's the compromise, they would also give serious consideration to subpoenaing John Dines and or the Commissioner to give evidence at the McDonald's libel case. Why did you think they would do that?
Well, if, and I don't recall, but if John Dines had played any role in connection with the McDonald's campaign, then that would have been a fair assessment that I'm making.
So one reason would be that John Dines had campaigned against McDonald's. Would another reason be that you had had a hand in the libelous document itself?
Well, you know what my evidence is on that, so I'm very clear and content about that.
Putting it at its lowest, that you too had been involved in campaigning against McDonald's.
Had I done campaigning against
Well,
McDonald's?
we know you did.
Of course, yes, of course.
But
Yeah.
that's another reason why you thought they might start subpoenaing witnesses.
I can't be certain. I'm sorry.
Why the Commissioner?
Well, on the basis that undercover police officers had some involvement in campaigning, and the Commissioner would be, that would be an option. I think that's what I'm suggesting there.
The embarrassment of the Commissioner having to explain the actions of the SDS in a public court.
Of course, yes.
A nightmare scenario for you.
Yes.
Could we take that document down now, please, and have 749113 up, please? This is a briefing and a request for surveillance with your name at the bottom. I think you've had an opportunity very recently to refresh your memory about this document, haven't you?
Yes, thank you.
Does it come to this, that you are here requesting surveillance for the purposes of obtaining a photograph to show to John Dines' parents to try and identify the man that accompanied her to John Dines' parents' home?
Yes.
We can take that document down now, 16th of October, and go to your third briefing note, the 24th of October, 749115. Looking at the first paragraph of this third short briefing note, what was the basis upon which you asserted that Helen Steele had travelled to New Zealand?
I can't recall today. I can speculate. I'm sure there must be another. There will be, I think, another briefing note that helps us to understand how we might have found that out.
Can you remember now?
Not immediately. Sorry.
It goes on to say that a co-defendant in the MacLibel case, Dave Morris, has told a group of supporters that 4 London Greenpeace MacLibel infiltrators have been uncovered and that surprises can be expected during the forthcoming presentation of his and Steele's defence at the High Court. Does this pique your concerns that Morris and Steele were planning to say something about infiltration of London Greenpeace during the course of the proceedings?
Yes, I think now that I've read that part of it, I think this is most likely and or more than one SDS officer, our own intelligence.
This second piece of intelligence definitely comes from an SDS report.
Right, yes. Yes, okay, yeah.
You are concerned, though, presumably, that a nasty surprise affecting the SDS is going to come out in the course of the proceedings. Or at least one with the potential to lead to further questions which start unravelling
Yes.
SDS
Yes.
infiltration. And presumably you wanted to know what they knew.
Yes.
Could we have a look at paragraph 3, please? Dines is the only person who has an in-depth knowledge of the identification of agents employed directly or indirectly by McDonald's against London Greenpeace during the period leading up to the issuing of writs against Steele and Morris in 1991 is John Dines. What was the basis for recording that Sergeant Dines was the only person with an in-depth knowledge of the identification of agents?
I can't recall today what the, did you say, significance was?
What was the basis for saying he was the only person with that in-depth knowledge?
I have a recollection, and I must have got this from talking to John Dines, that when he was deployed, that he identified someone, just someone he thought, he was confident that he'd spotted someone sort of, snooping around, whether it was at London, outside a London Greenpeace meeting or something like that, and it was his that, mind you, that doesn't add up to an in-depth knowledge.
You preempted my next question,
yeah.
Mr. Lambert. What was the basis?
I can't immediately add to that.
Had there been contact, to your knowledge, between McDonald's and the SDS in the lead-up to the issuing of those writs?
At that time, no, I can be confident. In 95, I'm there. Keith Edmondson's DCI. I'm driving at had John Dines told you about what had gone on. What? When? Sorry, when?
In the lead up to the issuing of the writs in the McLibel case in 1991, John Dines told you anything about events leading up to the issuing of those writs?
No, I don't think so. I think the conversation I'm recalling was, after, quite probably after October 95.
How did you know that he had an in-depth knowledge?
I can't recall the basis for that now, I'm sorry.
Presumably through talking to him?
Yes, probably, unless I'd heard it from...
Had he said anything to the effect that there had been coordination with McDonald's, the result of which was that he, Dines, had not been served with a writ?
No.
One of the things that comes out of this document is you seem to be raising questions that need answers about what London Greenpeace knows, and that Dines is a man who might have some of the answers. Is that fair?
Yes.
Were you? How were you going to get those answers?
I can't recall today, I'm sorry.
Can you recall whether you wanted to go out to New Zealand to speak to Dines?
I don't remember that. I certainly never did go out to New Zealand.
It's not quite the same thing. Did you want to go out to New Zealand?
I don't think so.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have 749114? We're now moving ahead in time to the 21st of November. And if you look at paragraph 1. And this seems to be recording the fact that photographs have been obtained, shown to Dines' parents, and there is a provisional identification suggesting it might have been Mr. Blair who accompanied Helen Steele to Dines' parents' home. Is that fair?
Yes, yes.
Can we go to paragraph 3, please? Give you a moment to read that.
Yes, thank you.
Can you help us with how you were able to write several barristers at these chambers, that's Doughty Street chambers, had contact with John Barker, the ALF activist?
Well, I think it must be from reading the the source material that I was being shown.
Does this mean going back to Dines' reporting from his deployment?
I don't think so. An examination of telephone calls from Steele's home also.
Well, how will call data from 1995 tell you that John Barker in the late 80s and early 90s had contact with barristers at Doughty Street?
Is that what it's saying?
Several barristers at these chambers had contact with John Barker, the ALF activist.
Well,
My
yeah,
question is, how did you know that?
just that bit. Several. Well, it would have known that from John Dines.
So you had been speaking to Dines?
Yeah, 21st of November.
Yeah.
I did speak to him, yes.
And what did he tell you about the contact he had with members of the bar from Doughty Street during his deployment?
I can't recall today.
Plainly enough for him to have told you he'd had contact with more than one?
I don't know.
And presumably in connection with the MacLibel case?
Not necessarily at all.
Can you recall whether it was in connection with the MacLibel case?
No, I can't.
And if we read on, there's a twist, isn't there, here? Because Dines had himself gone on to train as a barrister at the Inns of Court.
Yes.
Not a million miles away from Doughty Street.
That's right, yeah.
Can we discern from this that you'd been discussing with Dines whether he had seen any of these barristers whilst at the Inns of Court?
I don't think reading this paragraph helps me to be really clear at all about any specific things, conversations or more than's here. Conversation. I mean, there's things here that I would have gleaned probably at different times.
But the relevance of this is you were presumably astute to the risk of compromise that might have arisen.
Of course, yes.
Can we go to paragraph 5, please? And contrary to the earlier document we saw, which records a confidence that the proceedings could be monitored by having a sergeant attend court, here you are saying it's not possible to monitor evidential developments apart from occasional reporting in the press. Can you assist us with why that position has changed?
No, no, I can't.
Can we go to paragraph 10, please? So if I'm understanding this correctly, what you're pointing out is the silver lining to the dark cloud of Helen Steele's investigations is that at least professional investigative journalists are not on the case.
Yes.
Because you would have regarded them as an even more potent threat to the operation. Is that fair?
I think so, yes.
And that uncovering what had happened would be an embarrassment to the Metropolitan Police, the Home Office, John Dines, and yourself.
Yes.
And of course, one of the many reasons why you would not want this to come out was your own sexual misconduct undercover, wasn't it?
I'm sure that would have been somewhere at the back of my mind.
And that of John Dines.
I don't think I did have that understanding at this point in time.
Had you had any conversations with Mr. Dines up to this point in time as to why it was that Helen Steele was pursuing him with such persistence?
I can't recall, quite honestly. I think what I've written at the time is fairly clear. I'm sure that myself and other managers would have, speculated on a whole range of issues. I can't recall.
You have certainly concluded correctly, as it turned out, that Ms. Steele wasn't going to give up until she had a solution. Had you really not explored why she was so persistent with Detective Sergeant Dines?
Well, I certainly knew that John Dines had worked closely with Helen Steele, and also Mr. Blair, who's now identified. Within all of our, although I wasn't present as a field officer for much of that deployment, but certainly we could be clear about the ability of Steele and Blair to pursue this very thoroughly, irrespective of whether or not John Dines had had a sexual relationship with Steele.
Did you address your mind to the possibility?
I'm sure I did, and I'm sure at some point I would have suspected that it was likely. And then at a later date, it becomes clear.
Did you ask?
I genuinely, I say, I'm confident that I didn't ask.
Was that because it didn't matter to you?
Not because it didn't matter, but I think because it was sort of my standard management approach, not asking.
So here we are, the autumn of 1995, determined investigations by London Greenpeace to find John Dines, led by Helen Steele. You are resolved, aren't you, to stay one step ahead of them?
Hoping to.
Can we move to 1998, 749112. This is tab B215, sir. And this is from Mr. Dines to you on the 8th of January 1998. I'm going to let you read the first 4 paragraphs, first of all, just to remind yourself of the contents and set the scene. Can I ask you, Mr. Lambert, about the second paragraph? It says, as I think I mentioned when we met, can you help us with when you had met John Dines?
Not precisely when, but certainly where, but you're asking me when anyway. Sorry. I can't put a date on it.
At all? Was it then recently or then distant?
When did we meet?
I can cut to the chase. What I'd like you to do is paint a picture of how often you met John Dines in what circumstances.
Well, whenever he made a family trip home to London, if it that would be when we met, when he was back in London. And
how often was that?
How often? Not very frequently, but
more than once a year or less than once a year?
Probably once a year.
He says, not unusually, I find myself seeking you out in times of difficulty. What's that referring to, please?
I suppose by January 98, how this has been going on for 2 or 3 years. There's that. I'm not saying that's solely what he's referring to. I don't. But this is a time of difficulty in relation to Helen Steele tracking him down. That's been going on for quite a while by now, hasn't it?
This is a time of difficulty, January 1998, because Helen Steele has travelled to New Zealand. 1995 was a time of difficulty because Helen Steele had tracked down Mr. Dynes's parents. But that is not enough to explain the sentence, not unusually I find myself seeking you out in times of difficulty. What else, please?
Nothing that I can call to mind.
You sure?
Well, I'm sure that I can't immediately call anything to mind. I might be able to if I put my mind to it.
Then goes on in the 7th paragraph to say, I am able to add nothing to the current situation save to reiterate what we have discussed at length over recent years.
Yeah.
What had you discussed at length over recent years?
The attempt by Helen Steele and Norman Blair to trace him.
Was it in fact the fact that Helen Steele had called Mrs. Wolstenholme on several occasions since 1991?
That she'd called...
She'd called Mr. Dynes's mother-in-law on several occasions since 1991.
Since 91? I don't remember that.
Did it involve the fact that she had found out that John Barker was a deceased child?
Well, so just going back to... forgive me, just going back to the... Did you say his mother-in-law?
Yes. Do you recall him telling you...
Back to 91. Well, as I said earlier, I don't... But it's possible, I don't remember it now. But then the second question, I'm sorry, was...
The death certificate for John Barker. Did you discuss...
Yes, I'm sure, yes.
And did you discuss the likelihood that she either had or would find out from his marriage certificate that he was a police or had been a police officer?
Yes, of course, yes.
And is it still your evidence that you remained wholly uninquisitive as to whether or not he'd had a sexual relationship with Helen Steele?
It is, yes.
She hadn't come looking for you, had she?
Well, the point is that she was. Who know? I don't know. I can't answer that, can I? Because all we know is what that.
You had spied on Helen Steele. So had John Dynes.
Yeah.
She's looking for Dynes. She's not looking for you.
But at the time...
Did that strike you as odd? Did you seek an explanation for that? Only that it might have been anyone. Helen Steele, Norman Blair, others might have, if they had suspicion, but so we can't really say that there was any sort of difference between. No, I'm not quite making sense, am I? Forgive me. Let's move.
What I'm trying to say is that there was. I don't think there was anything in addition to the fact that two very committed activists who were at least both close friends of John Dynes, having somehow found a route into his real identity, that they would pursue it as vigorously as were.
Can we have 247461, please? This is another briefing note. It bears the date the 2nd of February 1997, but we think it's clear from the content that it should say the 2nd of February 1998. A small point arising from paragraph 1, please. There's no such thing as a member of the ALF, is there?
No.
And so why were you misrepresenting the position there?
I think it was just shorthand for the benefit of readers.
Was it to place an emphasis on the ALF as opposed to the real reason that John Dines was being sought out, namely a sexual relationship with Helen Steele?
No.
Can we go to paragraph 2, please? So this is a record of the occasion when Helen Steele had gone to see John Dines' mother and father-in-law, isn't it?
Yes.
And you will see there the basis for the questions I've put to you about there having been telephone calls since 1991.
Yes.
In view of the extensive contact that you'd had with John Dines over the years since 1991, and the importance of efforts to trace John Dines to the unit, to him, and to you personally, can we take it that he would have told you about these long before you committed to writing here in 1998?
I don't think so, because, I mean, I'd have to check, or if I could in some way look back, but I only have a clear recollection of engaging with John, meeting John from 95 onwards. I don't know. Beg your pardon?
It's going to say it's inconceivable, isn't it, when there's a record that he'd come to you for help on multiple occasions, and you'd had long conversations in the past, that he hadn't told you about these calls.
I don't think he says multiple occasions, but whatever. I have no recollection of. No, I have no recollection of prior discussions before I mean, if I had, then I would have reported it.
And we can see from this record that, as feared, Helen Steele has made the connection to the marriage of John Dines, and therefore it is likely she knows John Dines was a police officer.
Yes, yes.
Can we go to paragraph 5, please? So we take a number of things from this paragraph. First of all, the assessment of Helen Steele by that stage is that she's drifted away from any involvement in ALF activity and is an entirely peaceful protester.
Yes.
So no threat herself to John Dines,
Correct.
but a considerable threat to the operational security of the SDS.
Yes.
And a considerable threat to the convictions that have been obtained.
I'm not sure that that was a factor.
Well, the last sentence, the fact that several of his former close contacts in the ALF served significant prison sentences as a direct or indirect result of his intelligence may help account for the persistence of Steele's inquiries.
Yes.
We talked in the past about what you've said about Clark and Shepherd, but this time it's connected to Dines. What convictions did you have in mind here?
I can't recall today what convictions I had in mind.
Did you in fact also have in mind Clark and Shepherd at this time?
I think I must have done.
Mr. Barr.
Thank you, sir. Could we have up, please, 726956? This is going back to the discussion paper you wrote about Sergeant Chitty, Detective Sergeant Chitty. If we could have page 6, please. And if we could have the penultimate paragraph. Tab B52, sir. So you're writing in 1994 of Detective Sergeant Dines' deployment in terms where you state, despite enduring the most arduous working conditions in the history of the SDS. What working conditions were you referring to?
I was referring to the fact that he was, to the best of my knowledge, he was the only or the first SDS officer to work continuously living within the squatting community.
We now have the name on the cipher list for HN87. If you want to look at that cipher list, I think it's been added in manuscript at the end of the section.
87.
87. Handwritten at the bottom. Handwritten at the bottom.
Oh, yes, yes. Got you. Thank you.
He spent a good deal of time in squats as well, didn't he?
Pardon?
He spent a good deal of time in squats as well, didn't he?
To the best of my recollection, not at all to the same extent. Nothing quite. No.
Was this phrase, in fact, at least in part, a cryptic reference to living with Helen Steele?
Certainly not.
Can we take that down now, please? Mr. Boyling told the inquiry that he met you in April 2000, and at that point there were no secrets between you about John Dines' sexual activities undercover. Is it right that you met Mr. Boyling and you shared openly the fact that John Dines had been in a sexual relationship with Helen Steele?
In 1990?
2000, April 2000.
April 2000. I don't recall it. It's possible.
What is your evidence of when and how you learned that John Dines had had a sexual relationship with Helen Steele?
At the time of the public disclosure.
So you're saying that any recollection that Mr. Boyling has of open discussion of that fact in April 2000 is wrong?
I think I take it seriously. But I don't recall it.
And that at no point in the history of Helen Steele pursuing John Dines did John Dines disclose to you the highly pertinent fact that he'd been in a sexual relationship with Helen Steele?
That is my best recollection.
despite the fact that you were obviously close,
Yes.
and despite the fact that you were trusted with the SDS's secrets by many a UCO,
Well, I'm not sure what that adds up to, but, you know, my answer's the same.
and despite the fact you were the go-to person to solve problems for the SDS of this ilk when they occurred.
Yes.
Did Mr. Boyling ever say to you that he told the woman we are calling Rosa that John Dines was an undercover police officer?
Did Jim Boyling tell me that
He told Rosa that Dines was a UCO.
he told her?
Yes.
I can't recall.
You've asserted in your witness statement that Helen Steele's efforts to track down John Dines were a learning opportunity. Can you help us with what lessons you thought fell to be learnt?
I mean, the only one that comes immediately to mind is the one of learning about the method in which his two identities were matched. I mean, that was very important learning for us, and I'm sure it contributed to subsequent changes in cover identity.
Do you mean by that there was a lesson to be learnt not to use one's real relatives in one's cover story?
Well, that's a separate bit of learning. That was surprising. I think, but certainly it was an opportunity, yes, to underline that.
Well, that was the method by which the connection was made, wasn't it?
I can't recall. I can't recall today.
Well, you knew that.
There
You knew that Helen Steele had been telephoning Mrs. Walthenholme and that she was John Dines' mother-in-law.
Yes, but...
So presumably you know how she was able to do that because John Dines had used her name in his deployment.
Well, that... I don't... Yeah, maybe that was it. I can't recall.
Well, what other lesson were you adverting to in your last answer to me then?
Well, that was the only... I can't recall anything specific at the moment.
What was done, if anything, to learn any lesson from this episode?
Nothing else comes to mind.
Was anything done to learn the lesson that one should not use one's real-life relatives in one's cover identity?
Yeah, I would like to think so.
Well, you would like to think so, but I'm asking this question because Carlo Saracchi did just that.
Right.
Can I take it that nothing was in fact done?
It would seem that nothing was done effectively.
And another lesson to learn, not to engage in deceitful sexual relationships.
Yes.
And can I take it that nothing was done at the time to prevent that continuing to happen?
Not effectively.
Was anything done at that time to prevent sexual relationships?
Not that I'm aware of.
Can we move now to the subject of your son, TBS? Did you carry out or cause to be carried out any checks on Jackie or TBS at any point after the end of your deployment, but before the story broke in 2011?
No, I don't think I did.
Why not?
Because I was confident that he was being well looked after by his mother and his adopted parent.
How could you know that?
I had reasonable grounds for believing that. I think I've described that in Tranche 2.
Dating from the 1980s?
Yes.
Did you tell the policing advisor, Mr. Peter Ward, about either Jackie or Belinda before informing him of the guardian's interest in you?
No, I don't think so.
Did you tell anyone in the Metropolitan Police Service about your relationship with Jackie and having fathered TBS between leaving the SDS in the 1980s and the story breaking?
No.
What was the reaction of senior police officers to you once the story did break?
I think they were in listening mode with me. When I say they, I mean my point of contact was with Peter Ward, as you know. I don't think I had any other contact at that particular time. And, he was someone I knew pretty well. I think he had, I think I did deal with him on other matters, prior to my story and others breaking. So I knew him fairly well. I felt, he was someone I could speak to before he became
my question, what was the reaction of senior officers?
Well, his reaction is the one I can remember, and of course he was very adept at, he wanted to get as much information from me as possible, and he was very calm, he wasn't judgmental in any way. He was very professional.
Did any other senior managers contact you?
Not at that point in time.
Other than for the purposes of pursuing the investigations of Operation Soissons, which later became Operation Hearn, did you have any contact from senior officers?
I may. Let me think. I did once. But no, that was, sorry, I think before it was, at the very beginning of Operation Hearn, I met the senior investigating officer. I've forgotten his name, but he was I remember meeting him, but that was obviously the beginning of what became Operation Hearn.
Can we have up, please, 749742, tab D1, sir? This is the note of a meeting of people from Operation Soissons on the 8th of November 2011. It's not a meeting at you were present. You'll see from that page what the meeting was about, where it was held, when, and who was there. Once you've absorbed that, could we go to page 6? The second paragraph. 2 officers from SCD, discussion, it is that second one, you've got the right one. Thank you. Discussion followed about Lambert's hereditary medical condition. Dr. Privacy has been approached to trace the child. There is no wider responsibility for the MPS in respect of this. Was this decision to ask a doctor to approach and trace TBS, to be approached to trace TBS, was that communicated to you?
No.
Did anybody explain to you that they proposed to use a doctor to find TBS?
No, I'm pretty sure. Well,
Do you know whether they actually tried to do so?
I don't. I don't think I was told.
Were you free to contact Jackie or TBS without MPS permission?
Was I free to? Well, I did everything. Everything in this regard. I discussed with Peter Ward.
Well, doesn't quite answer my question. Did anybody tell you not to contact them?
No.
Did anybody ask you whether you were going to?
I'm sure, well, only Peter Ward. He would have wanted to know, yes, and I would have told him.
And the answer would have been?
Well, different to what I've read. I mean, I would never have dreamt of approaching TBS directly. Not at all. And the first thing I, wanted to know was whether.
We'll come to that in a moment. I'm just trying to explore whether you were free to contact Jackie and TBS if you'd wanted to.
I think I was, yeah.
Did you provide Operation Soissons or Operation Hearn or any part of the MPS at any later date with any updates about TBS? And I'm not meaning here when you were formally interviewed. I mean,
what, you not the...
Did you contact any part of the MPS other than when you were being formally interviewed by Hearn and tell them anything about TBS?
Well, there is
after these initial disclosures.
There is. I mean, I'm not quite sure where we are. I don't want to jump ahead.
Let me put it very simply. Did you tell them anything else about TBS other than what you discussed with Peter Ward in 2011?
No.
Can we go to NPCC 3051550, please? these are emails around the time that the story broke. Can we go to page 2, please? This is an email at the top of the page from you to Peter Ward about the fact the Guardian had contacted you. I'll give you a moment to refresh your memory.
Yes, thank you.
Extremely sorry that my 2 unauthorised romantic relationships in the 1980s are now causing problems for you. We know that there were 4.
Yes.
You've said in your latest witness statement that you were focused on the issue in hand. Is it right here that you made a conscious decision not to be fully forthcoming with the Metropolitan Police Service at this stage?
No, I think I can offer some, and I can offer hopefully some evidence that that wasn't my intention, because almost at exactly this same time, I was very clear that I had had 4 sexual relationships.
Who were you clear with?
Well, I was about to say, with the Guardian reporter.
Yeah, but
now,
the Guardian is not the Metropolitan Police Service.
I know it's not, but it surely proves that I was not trying to hide that I'd had these 4 relationships. It was, you know, as I said in my statement, I was just preoccupied at the time with these issues that we're talking about. Yes, I should have said straight away, I should have mentioned the other 2, but I had every, you know, they were, it was not, I was going to include them, yeah.
Can we go to page 3, please? Give you a moment to read that. But the questions are going to be directed at the fact you are trying in this email to persuade Rob Evans of The Guardian to pass on information, medical information, so it reaches TBS, aren't you?
Yes. Yes, that's right, yeah.
Did it become apparent to you whether or not Rob Evans was going to do that for you?
I can't recall now.
As far as you are aware, did he pass on that information to TBS?
No, I don't think he was able to. I'm not sure.
Why didn't you pass on that information if Mr. Evans had not done so?
Well, I needed to find out what I'm allowed to say mother's, the name that's used, just remind me.
Her pseudonym is Jackie.
Yes. You know, I needed to really, find out where, have a discussion. I felt to see what what they want, what she wanted, and I would have hoped that through her, potentially, I could.
Mr. Lambert, how is it going to get to TBS through Jackie if you aren't telling them?
Well, no, I had to, of course I had to figure that out. I was trying to see what I could, what I could
Did you
do.
approach either Jackie or TBS with that medical information?
I didn't at this moment in time.
Why not?
I probably should have done. I'd obviously, I didn't. I didn't know how to in the right way. I don't know.
Coming back to my earlier questions about your communications with the police, can I be clear that the Metropolitan Police Service was not stopping you doing so?
Correct.
A different topic on this page, it says, I did not report either relationship to my police supervisors at the time, so you are clearly there referring to the two that Rob Evans knew about. To your police supervisors at the time. Now, our understanding of your evidence from Tranche 2 was that you did tell Detective Inspector Barber.
Yes.
So you are not being entirely forthcoming with Mr. Evans, are you?
No.
Why not?
I can't recall why not.
Can we look now at the response that you invited Mr. Evans to publish, which is in italics? It says in the penultimate paragraph, during the last 10 years, I have often wished I had employed the tactic of police partnerships with credible and legitimate non-violent animal rights campaign groups instead of the tactic of infiltration as a less damaging and more effective way of preventing political violence and intimidation by the ALF and related groups. When you say less damaging and more effective, do you mean less damaging and more effective than the undercover policing tactic?
Yes.
Can you, in very brief summary, explain what you meant by the tactic of police partnerships?
Yes, well, that was based on work that I'd done over several years subsequent to the SDS, where there are. I found out from that experience there are opportunities to work with members of the community with a view to tackling political violence of one kind or another.
Does it remain your view that the tactic of police partnerships would have been less damaging and more effective than undercover policing as a means of dealing with ALF actions?
I did discuss this in a academic article, which I think you've got, and there's quite a lot of academic research. Some of it was mine, but not altogether, which, when looking at the Animal Liberation Front, pointed out that it can be, in some cases, it can be very difficult, impossible, fundamentally impossible to achieve results in the community-based policing. I mean, I don't want to go into that, but I was aware.
I'm asking you for the bottom line, Mr. Lambert. Is it your view now that police partnerships would have been a less damaging and more effective way of preventing ALF activity?
No, I think because my understanding is that it just, it wouldn't work.
Was it your view when you wrote this draft response, or were you just trying to say something to defend yourself?
No, I think it was genuine, and it's only subsequently that, I think, I probably 4 or 5 years after this, I come to a view that it would be very difficult to achieve that kind of approach in or with groups like the ALF. But having said that, this was, I think, a genuine feeling. I'm describing accurately, how I felt that if it could be done, anything that could be achieved in a police partnership approach instead of infiltration, like the SDS, has got to be better for the activists and better for the police officers, for sure.
You say often wished, which suggests you'd given the matter much thought. Was that accurate?
Oh, yes, and discussed it. I discussed it with several people. It was sort of ongoing research
so
work.
Why the change of view despite having given it considerable thought?
Well, it's ongoing, isn't it? And I think I think what I should say to, I'll have to leave it there, I'm sorry.
So that was my last question before the Rule 10 questions. I've had a number of emails, but I'm conscious that we've had 40 minutes of questioning, and in particular the whole topic about TBS. Yes. Might I invite you to rise for 5 minutes so that those further matters can be the subject of any further requests?
Certainly. Let me know when you're ready to resume. Mr. Barr.
Mr. Lambert, given your knowledge of reporting on Michael Mansfield, King's Counsel, did you consider then or now that he was involved in any subversive activity that justified reporting on him?
No, not that I was aware of then or now.
I asked you a question arising from Operation Soissons about a doctor and whether, to your knowledge, the MPS had arranged for a doctor to try and trace TBS. I've got the name of the doctor on a piece of paper, which I'm going to have passed to you.
Yes.
And the question is whether the name jogs your memory at all.
Yes. Thank you. No.
Thank you. In terms of any investigations you might have done in relation to Jackie and TBS, there was mention in the last tranche of looking at adoption papers. Can you recall when you looked at the adoption papers?
Not with precision. I think in my statement I indicated that the period as best I could.
So what is your recollection now of when you did that?
Right. I think certainly, before before the publicity broke, and I think after I became aware of the possibility or the probability that the story would break, which, when was that? Probably from January 2011.
Can we have up, please, 745818? This is a minute that you have written. Are you able to help us with any of the handwriting?
On this minute sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm particularly interested in where it reads in the finer script, the security officer for the Sears Group, Selfridges, is something of the... is aware of the threat, as is Boots PLC.
Right. Who do I recognise that writing?
Yes.
No.
Are you able to help us with what the channel of communication would have been to alert a public corporation to a threat?
It would it would have been via C Squad to begin with, so in the usual way for STS reporting.
The fact that you've signed this off, would this manuscript have been before you signed it off or afterwards?
I think it can only have been afterwards. I think there's some, well, to me, that's the way it reads clearly, because I think the reason I can be fairly sure is because underneath the handwritten sentence, you can see there's a DI and a DS to C, and that's I think that's onward dissemination, so possibly C squad.
Can we take that down now, please? I want you to cast your mind back now, please, to the relocation of Detective Constable Jenner and his family. There appear to be three possible reasons for relocating the family. One is the protection of the SDS operation. One is the protection of Detective Constable Jenner, and a third is the protection of his family. Can you help us with which of those three possible explanations was in play?
I think always, all three will always necessarily be in play at the same time. But in any event, in this particular case, I'm sure that would have been our understanding.
Can you help us as to the assessment at the time of the relative levels of threat to each of those three? In other words, first of all, what was the relative level of threat to the SDS operation?
Relative to what?
What was the level of threat to the SDS operation of Detective Constable Jenner and his family continuing to live at a place where he kept bumping into Kurt?
Right. Significant.
What was the risk personally to Detective Constable Jenner from living in a house close to where he kept bumping into to Kurt?
Yeah. I think that was significant because of his targeting, whereas Kurt himself, it may have transpired that he individually wasn't a major threat, but the danger would arise from the knowledge going from Kurt to others in and around his target group who would pose a very high, and I think at that point that particular threat would take priority, and if he were to be harmed, or if he was preoccupied with that risk, then that affects his family just as much.
Well, that takes me to the next question. Is that right? The level of anybody taking any action against S or the children, was that rather less than the risk of action against Detective Constable Jenner?
I'm sure it was, but the consequent harm to his wife and children would be immeasurable.
What sort of harm are you talking about?
Well, if DC Jenner is seriously assaulted, that has a huge impact.
Consequential harm.
Oh, yes.
Can we move back to the discussion document you wrote about Detective Sergeant Chitty? We can go to it if we need to, but in that document there's a stage where you say that Chitty's wife has confided in you that she never felt able to talk to the office about her husband's lack of interest in his home life. I want to ask you, did you or any members of the SDS's management consider changing the ways in which you interacted with UCO's spouses in the light of that revelation?
I think it did change for the better, at least for the most part, because of the personalities involved. DCI Edmondson, in particular, in my management period, for most, not all, but for most field officers at the time, and when we did see partners, he was very, very good. Whereas perhaps in Mike Chitty's tenure, managers may not have been, so none of which answers the question about sort of actual, policy procedure. And as you know by now, we weren't so, at that point, at any rate, up to when I left, we weren't so good on actually systematising that kind of work.
When you were in a managerial role in the SDS, did you ever reflect on the efficacy or the appropriateness of the policy of recruiting married officers in the light of your own sexual misconduct?
I'm sure I would have done, but I think I kept that pretty much under lock and key, really. But privately, yes, I would have done.
And what were your private reflections?
Well, I think probably that that there would be risks either way. Not a, I don't think a change of that policy would have necessarily led to a reduction in the incidence of sexual relationships.
Might have led to an increase.
No. I didn't mean. Well, if I did,
you think it might have led to an increase?
No. Sorry.
An increase in the incidence.
Right. Shall I? May I try again?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that. I think I was.
I'm asking you whether you thought it would, if the policy had been changed, it would have led to an increased incidence of sexual misconduct.
Yes. Well, whatever reflections I had, I don't know. I'm not sure that I came to any conclusion on that. I'm sorry.
But it would have led to a decrease in the incidence of families being betrayed, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Can you help us with why you did nothing about those reflections?
No, I can't add anything to what I've said. My approach was fundamentally inadequate to deal with, to try and tackle the problem, I'm afraid, when I look back on it. So I'm not particularly proud of that, but
so those are all my questions for Mr. Lambert.
Yeah. I asked you yesterday to reflect overnight about a particular topic, namely your knowledge of the circumstances in which HN120 Jenner was living. Have you done so?
I have, sir. I've only got probably a minute or two to address you on that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to reflect overnight. I just scribbled down a few notes on it just to help me collect my thoughts.
Take your time. There's abundant time. Say what you want to.
No, thank you. Well, so I want to address, I think, the only, or certainly the important paper that I wrote in 1997, where I am addressing, I think it's called, is it called a discussion paper? It starts off dealing with Jamie, and then it moves on into a wider discussion. Yeah. Well, because that's, that gives me certainty. That's me, what I'm dealing with when I write that paper. And this is what I wanted to say to you on reflection. My paper, this paper, is factually incorrect in respect of its description of Mark Jenner's accommodation, the length of his occupancy, and three points, the identities of the other occupants. I take full responsibility for these errors. These are my errors and not DC Jenner's. I cannot recall how or why I made these errors. And finally, I do not believe that I set out to willfully misrepresent the true facts.
Are you able, on reflection, to give any reason why you should have misrepresented those three things?
I think a degree of negligence about actual not being across the detail of his living arrangements. I was not across it. I was not really, in any meaningful sense, across the living arrangements of any of the field officers. So, given the opportunities that I had as a manager, and I'm sure other managers that you have or will speak to have been far more proactive on this, and I was, I'm afraid, almost, well, as I say, probably negligent, and I'm not sure that I can add much more.
If it's necessary to look at the document again, we can do so, but there are detailed descriptions in there which you say you were negligent in putting in. I don't understand how detailed descriptions of that kind can be given erroneously, negligently.
No, I accept that, and but it's, you know, I got it wrong. I don't, if I'd been, you know, I made a mistake, I don't know, today I don't know any more than that.
Can I put it bluntly so that you have the opportunity of responding? Was this, in fact, a detailed but false picture painted for your incoming DCI HN58?
I think can you just repeat that, please, sir?
Yes. Was this a detailed, false picture of HN15 circumstances deliberately painted for your incoming DCI HN58?
I don't believe that I had that intention, but it certainly presented him with a misleading picture. I understand that. I would have known at the time, you know, there might have, I don't know why or on what basis I included those names. I would have had an explanation at the time. I don't believe that I was being willfully untruthful.
Well, I will have to reflect upon your answers, but in due course it is possible that I will reach a conclusion about them which will be adverse to you.
Of course, thank you.
Mr. Barr, anything arising out of that?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, because we have a full afternoon, it would be desirable if we were able to begin at 10 to 2, and I'm therefore going to rise until 10 to 2 when we will have our next witness. Your evidence is complete. Thank you for attending and for giving it.
Thank you, sir.